Last several meetings we were discussing about immune system and repairing immune system in the case of autoimmune diseases, in the case of allergies, and we touched also that it does matter for oncological diseases, for cancer diseases also. We discussed, do you remember we discussed about the vicious circle and the four things which are broken in the case of immune system problems, which is dysbacteriosis, broken, wrong microbiome in intestine, different bacteria. The unhealthy epithelium, leaky gut, and in general unhealthy epithelium, that was what we discussed last time. And before, we covered also chronic inflammation in intestine, which is like small level but long-term inflammation which exhausts immune system and leads to unhealthy intestine in general. And before we will pass to dysbacteriosis actually, which is a very big topic which we will discuss later, probably it will take more than one meeting. Today we will discuss one more point which is often overlooked in addressing problems of intestine and immune system. But when it is overlooked, you cannot restore good microbiome, and you cannot restore healthy intestine and healthy immune system. The problem which I name lazy gut or lazy bowel, I believe that's what the terminology also is in literature usually. And this is a condition which is between normal motility of intestine and constipation. It's somewhere in between. Unfortunately, that's where most modern Western people are, in that case. And the problem is bigger than we might think. It's not only about immune system. Let me tell you first. There are only two organs in our body which can function without brain control. From brain, nerves go to all organs, and all organs need continuous signals, continual commands from brain in order to function properly. There are two organs which can function without brain control. This is heart and intestine. Intestine kind of has its own autonomous nerve system, similar to what heart has also. They are, of course, quite different from each other. But intestinal nervous system allows, even if intestine doesn't receive any control from brain, still the blood flow through it is regulated by intestine itself, and the peristalsis, which are wave-like contractions of muscles of all intestine and stomach and esophagus starts from here, they can work autonomously. You see how very important is that function of digestive system. That thing is compromised in many Western people, and we will discuss now with you why and how to fix. The problem goes not only to immune system. It is low motility of intestine is actually one of factors of risk of colon cancer. And you know that colon cancer is nowadays, the risk of getting colon cancer is more than 4% during lifetime of a person. So any person who lives now is like more than 4% risk of getting colon cancer, which is one of leading diseases in mortality. So whatever we will discuss today is not related only to immune system, because of colon cancers, which I mentioned, and because of certain other diseases like ulcerative colitis, which is also quite common nowadays. So one of the measures which are in terms of motility, as I told, motility of intestine or peristalsis is that contraction movement of all stomach and intestine which moves everything what is inside in one direction. Actually, it should be so efficient that a person should be able to eat while hanging upside down. So the foot there, the movement of the muscles will allow to move all stuff in intestine upside down if you hang upside down. That is how healthy motility should be. It goes, in many people, in most people, it is not constipation, right? Constipation, we understand what is that. In most people, it is just slower than needed, and the time can be measured. It's named bowel transit time. Bowel transit time is pretty much the length of time which passes from something is eaten to something is wasted. So it can be measured by everybody, just very easy way. For example, you can eat something which has very specific color. For example, beets. You can eat several beets, or you can eat activated carbon, which is black. Beets are reddish, of course, and you can just know the time when you ate it, and then notice the time when it left your body, and that is its bowel transit time. It was always considered that normal bowel transit time is from 15 to 25 hours. Nowadays, and you can see in your handouts, by the way, if you don't have it, just go to keys2autoimmune.com. Keys2autoimmune.com, you can enter your email, you will receive the handout to your mailbox. So you can see the diagram kind of shows it there, that nowadays a new norm was established. It was established a couple of decades ago, that the normal transit time nowadays is considered up to 72 hours instead of 25. You see how big difference happens, and why it is considered norm now? Because that's how most people have it. So they tell now that even if a person, the bowel transit time didn't happen in 2 days, it's not constipation yet. While previously it was considered constipation. So, and condition in a woman, it's even worse. So it is considered now that for males, average transit time is slightly above 30 hours, and for females it goes above 40 hours. And they tell that, yeah, even if up to 72, it happens. Well, it normally should not happen. Normal should be like probably 1/3 of it or half of it. So what kind of problems it means and why does it happen? We will discuss it now. One of problems which slower motility of intestine has, it has on microbiome, on the bacteria which are inside the intestine. You can imagine that water in swamp is very different from water in the river. Because here it doesn't move, here it does move. And that leads to different kind of bacteria multiply here and there. One is healthy, one is unhealthy. The same happens with the intestine. Lower motility time leads to overgrowth of bacteria. If you heard about SIBO, S-I-B-O, small intestine bacterial overgrowth, it's a problem which leads to chronic inflammation or irritation inside the intestine and intolerance to many food, which can lead to more multiplication of bacteria. So SIBO, SIBO. Another problem, even probably more serious, leading directly to more serious diseases, is FIBO, C4, small intestine fungal overgrowth. It is when fungus cells are, meaning either yeast or some other fungus, multiplies inside the intestine. And that also leads to problem of immune system. Direct reason for that cause is slower motility of intestine. Another problem is slower motility leads to more of rotting process inside intestine, which leads to formation of more different toxins, and those toxins get absorbed into the body. Everything which is absorbed from stomach and intestine goes first through the liver. And liver is acting on detoxifying, or it neutralizes those toxins. But it's a loss of work for the liver, so slower motility of intestine leads to more toxic load on the liver, which leads to problem of the liver, different kinds of diseases up to like probably that's why in recent times, liver cancer became also quite common. When I studied in medical school, we were taught that liver cancer almost does not happen. Most cases it happens because of hepatitis B, and that was in the 1990s. And nowadays already liver cancer is, I know some people who had liver cancer. So it's one of problems of unhealthy lifestyle, unhealthy eating, etc. So whatever we will discuss today is related to this problem. You see, in chronic intoxication, which happens and affects liver and intestine, the effects of microbiome or unhealthy microbiome, and as a result, problems of immune system. By the way, one of interesting paradoxical defects of low motility of intestine can be diarrhea. We can think that, well, it is kind of opposite, yes, diarrhea if it is too fast and too much. Well, but actually slow motility of intestine leads to intoxication and inflammation of what is inside intestine, the epithelium and the wall of intestine, which leads to malabsorption. The intestine cannot absorb well. Of course, malabsorption by itself can lead to many problems, like low hemoglobin, for example, because iron is not absorbed well, and some other micronutrients deficiency in the body. But it also doesn't absorb well water. That's why what is inside intestine is not absorbed well, and it becomes more watery, and diarrhea happens. So if you have diarrhea, frequently, it can be a result also of lower motility, though it can sound paradoxically. But yes, intensifying motility, making it faster, will help resolving the diarrhea problems also. Well, why the problem happens? Why slow motility of intestine happens? One of root causes is dysbiosis, or problems of microbiome. We did not cover the problems of microbiome yet, and what to correct and how to correct, but I quickly can tell you that there was a similar experiment made with mice. There was a line of mice which were bred without any bacteria in their intestine. So intestines were sterile. Those mice did not have healthy motility of intestine. And when they started to add probiotics for those mice, the motility was restored. So it was found that kind of interesting kind of experiment, how bacteria can make intestine to physically work well. And they found that actually there are certain receptors inside our intestine, and those receptors are sensitive to certain polysaccharides, which are synthesized by certain kinds of bacteria. Without those bacteria, there is no stimulation of those receptors, and the intestine is not stimulated, does not work properly. So change of the microbiome is definitely needed, and we will address it separately. It's a very big topic, but that is one of the factors. And it's actually also a vicious circle, because unhealthy motility, as we told, leads to unhealthy microbiome. Unhealthy microbiome leads to unhealthy motility. Again, you need to fix both things simultaneously. Another problem is chronic inflammation of intestine. Why chronic inflammation? And we covered it in one of previous meetings about chronic inflammation. There is certain kind of food which induces inflammation in intestine. Abnormal microbiome, by the way, also can induce chronic inflammation, and that affects the internal nervous system of the intestine. If the wall of intestine is inflamed, the cells which are responsible for normal motility, for normal peristaltis, they can even be killed by the inflammation process. The cells I named ICC, intestinal cells of Cajal. Cajal was a scientist from Latin America, I believe, who first described those cells. So those cells can be killed by acute inflammation. That's why, by the way, it's quite frequent that food poisoning or intestinal infection, acute intestinal infection, leads to autoimmune diseases after that. That is the way. There was food poisoning or acute intestinal enteroinfection, which killed those cells, ICC cells, in the wall, which led to lower motility. And then lower motility started the whole vicious circle of bad microbiome, inflammation, etc. And that's how a person goes into disaster of autoimmune problems. Fortunately, ICC, those cells, they can regenerate. Unlike most cells in our brain, ICC cells can regenerate, so restoring and addressing the problem early will help to restore motility. Another problem is wrong food ingredients. We'll touch it now. It definitely depends on food. It definitely depends on water, and we'll talk about this now. And it depends on muscle tone. And there are other problems which can be unrelated to intestine, for example, hypothyroidism So if you have a problem with low motility and you cannot fix it, you don't realize why, you may want to check with endocrinologists regarding thyroids and the hormones of thyroids. If they are on lower side of range, it can be one of things to address in order to fix, so eventually fix the immune system. So how we address the problem? Of course, reducing inflammation, what we studied previous time, is important, and we discuss about different kinds of foods to reduce inflammation. Restoring microbiome, we will discuss about that. But now wanted to touch the point about water, because lack of hydration is one of causes of lower motility, and it can lead to constipation, but most people stay in that range between norm and constipation, what we call lazy gut. According to American National Academy of Sciences and Engineering, adult person should drink more than 3 liters of water. I believe for males it is considered 3.7 liters of water per day. And it's considered like 20% of that water is incoming into our body from food anyways. So you can tell like 3 liters of water. That is the basis norm of consumption of water. And if you work out and you sweat, of course it's more. If it is hot weather and you sweat, of course it is more. But that's the amount of water we should consume. And our bodies are 2/3 water, not anything else. So any other kinds of drinks, they do not fully replenish amount of water. We can, of course, consume some other kinds of drinks, but it should not go in to decrease the amount of water we should consume. When we drink water is also kind of important, because drinking together with food, right before food, or at the moment when food is still in your stomach, interferes with the digestive process. The digestion process is a chemical reaction. Yes, our stomach produces stomach juices, and the chemical reaction inside the stomach to digest the food. And if you pour water on top of it, you digest the stomach juices, meaning it will be less concentrated. And when it is less concentrated, the digestion process doesn't go as efficiently. Later, when we'll touch the point of microbiome, we will see that it also reduces the function of the stomach juice to kill all bacteria which come into your body if it is diluted with water. So normally the water we should drink, it should be well before meal or well after meal, between meals, but not at the moment when food is inside the stomach. Adequate quantity is important.
Can you define the amount of time before, after?
Okay, because water passes very quickly, we can tell like, well, 15 minutes before food, that's good. Okay, after meal, it really depends on what you eat, because fruits probably will stay in the stomach like 30 minutes. But if you eat something substantial, it can be 1 hour, it can be 2 hours. If it is meat, for example, it stays longer. So yes, 1 to 2 hours after meal, probably leave the stomach alone so that it does its work, depending again on what you eat. If it is fruits or just vegetables, it can be less than 1 hour. So that's kind of rule of thumb. It's not very strict, as you see, but yeah, depending on kind of food. Less than 1 hour, slightly more than 1 hour. But
drinks when you're eating, you should be drinking.
Yeah, when we eat, we should drink a lot before food. Yes, yeah. So give lots of water to our body to facilitate the digestion process, etc. Water is needed. But when we eat, drinking is just literally washing away all digestive juices from the food. And how do you digest the food if you constantly wash away the juice?
Interesting.
Or if you dilute the juice, the digestion will not, it will take longer time probably, it will not go that well, etc. So it's better to have that habit of drinking a lot between meals, but not in the time of meal. Another important point is muscle tone, I thought. And that is actually one of the reasons, or probably only reason or main reason why women have more problems with constipations and women have more problems with lower motility of intestines than men. And muscle tone of abdominal muscles. So definitely physical activity is extremely necessary. Sedentary type of life, yeah, we should interrupt it with physical activity, and there are special trainings even to strengthen those muscles, because the muscles, abdominal muscles, they kind of keep pressure, constant pressure on all internal organs, which help stimulating the muscles of intestine and stomach to move properly. When it's loose, it doesn't move well. And in your handout, which you received, again, it's keys to autoimmune.com. If you scroll to that point of the handout, I've included one video, which is good demonstration of that physical activity for all groups of abdominal muscles, what is around it. Another kind of physical activity, it's kind of not related to abdominal muscle, but interestingly, it was found that intensive chewing does stimulate the whole motility of all digestive tract, from esophagus to the end. So probably some people have the practice, a habit of not chewing well, swallowing when not chewing much, and that habit, which starts in the mouth with physical activity of the mouth, it spreads to the physical activity of stomach and intestine also, to not do its work well in terms of muscle contractions. So that's another thing. Now we come to the point of food ingredients, and that's so water, physical tone or muscle tone, and food ingredients. There are certain food ingredients which I wrote 3, the main problem, which should be either excluded or limited. Excluded should be sugar. It's well known that sugar in food makes inflammation of intestine, makes the intestine to not contract well, the motility lowers, and it also makes the more sticky, the whole consistence of what is intestine, and it doesn't move well. That is a problem. It also leads to big problems of microbiome. So sugar should be avoided. 2 other things I wrote as limiting: starch and meat. They are both known to be relatively not okay, but it's okay if you get more of other things which stimulate. So it's kind of it's more relative. Meat is well-known factor of risk, by the way, for colon cancer, especially red meat, meaning beef and pork. I know we don't eat pork, but yeah, and beef also. This is a well-known factor. Those who eat red meat, they have more of colon cancer. So what we are speaking, like 4 point something, more than 4% already of expectancy of colon cancer for any person lifetime, and it is growing. I mean, just 20 years ago, it was much less. It's known to grow. So these are things to exclude or limit. Yes, we're excluding sugar and limiting starch, limiting meat. On another side, there are certain things which we do not definitely eat enough. And what stimulates good motility is fiber, pectin. I kind of separated it because the fiber is more insoluble, pectins are more soluble, but they're kind of related. And we now will talk what is that, and oils. Consuming of oil, we discussed it when we talked about inflammation of intestines, that olive oil and some other kinds of oil are very beneficial. So here it is also, because it helps more smooth movement of everything. And regarding fiber, it is interesting. The study made by Dr. Burkett, I wrote here, there was a study comparing amount of fiber in intestine in the stool of Western people in Europe and America on one side, and hunter-gatherers in Africa. And it was found that we eat less than 1/3 of fiber which we should eat, comparing to like healthy diet, because he was studying, and his study was revealing that the intestinal and immune system of those people, hunter-gatherers, is much healthier than others, than ours. And he found that regarding fiber, they have more than 3 times more fiber coming into their intestine. Fiber has several different functions, and it stimulates just mechanical movement of the food. It creates the bulk, which stimulates that. It also acts as a filter, absorbing different toxins into itself. It also acts as a buffer, controlling the absorption of sugar into our blood. And it was found that, yes, consumption of fiber in food does correlate with problem with sugar in blood and with problem of cholesterol in blood also. Insoluble fiber and soluble fiber are slightly different chemically. Both of them are necessary for our organism. As you understand, that insoluble fiber doesn't dissolve in water. It stays as rough fibers. And it is mostly, if you think about cabbage, cauliflower, most leafy greens, they have a lot of such fiber. And on another side, you have soluble fiber, which are more like fruits. That's what I mean. Pectins are known in apples, any other kinds of fruits. Carrots, interestingly, also have lots of soluble fiber. And different kinds of beans and lentils and chickpeas, etc. They have lots of soluble fiber also. So that fiber dissolves in water and creates like a gel or gel. And that allows also good movement of intestine and also stimulates the motility. So both kinds of fiber are necessary, both are needed, and depending on how the stomach and intestine of a person is accustomed to fiber, you may want to start more with softer ones, but you want to move to harder ones also. So probably for some people it is necessary to move gradually by increasing amount of fiber, because some people are not trained and it takes time to get accustomed to it. Besides fiber, which we discussed, and water, and limiting certain kinds of food, like starch, meat, and avoiding sugar, there is also certain kinds of food which are known to just stimulating motility of intestine directly, and they are named prokinetics, from Greek word kinesis, movement. So they are all of plant origin, and the one which is readily available, the easily available, is ginger. So I would suggest to not ignore it in our cuisine. So ginger is known to stimulate the motility of intestine. Besides that, probably more exotic things will be dandelion root and gentian root. They also stimulate motility, but the easiest available is ginger. Besides that, probably also quite easy to have in your food is fennel seeds and anise seeds. So those things added to food together with fiber will guarantee like good movement of intestine if you do not interfere it with sugar and starch. The list of recommended foods and where soluble and not soluble foods are is in your handout. You can follow it. Another interesting point is that what also stimulates motility of intestine is hunger. It was found that during the periods of fasting do stimulate motility of stomach and intestine because of release of certain hormones. This intestine produces at least 2 hormones, actually it produces many different hormones, but at least 2 hormones which are directly connected to peristalsis movement. One is named motilin, another is named renin, and those 2 hormones, you can connect them with that feeling of hunger when you feel that something is pressing and moving inside your stomach. When you see that, when you feel that hunger feeling in your stomach, that you feel that it kind of moves. That is the reaction of renin and motilin on your intestine. So the period of hunger are necessary, and interestingly, continuously snacking removes that feeling of hunger from a person and can negatively affect motility of intestine. And hunger is a natural thing. We should even intuitively understand that that's what we should experience. That's normal, natural thing. Before finishing the topic, and we will probably have Q&A, I will very quickly mention two other problems which may lead to it. One is a problem with laxative abuse. Laxative abuse is something which more frequently used by women who want to lose weight, and they decide that the best thing to lose weight is not to correct the diet, but to continue eating as I do, but also to take some laxative to cause things to move faster so it doesn't get absorbed faster. Most laxatives, even those which are sold over the counter in pharmacy stores, are not suitable for long-term usage. They are okay for one time, for a couple times, short term, but long term usage of laxative means that the intestine gets desensitized and it doesn't react. And now it will require laxative in order to work normally. And then it will just not respond even to this, and it will require something stronger. So laxative abuse is one of cause of chronic constipations and lower motility. And probably the only type of laxative which is suitable for long-term use is fiber. And fiber is the ingredient of so-called bulk-forming laxatives. Bulk-forming laxatives are sometimes just pure fiber, which forms bulk inside the intestine and stimulates the motility. And another point is psychological factor. The psychological factor, I apologize, but it's kind of delaying to do it when you want. And many people, because of job, because of work, delay it, and it stays delayed for an hour, another hour, etc. And it kind of teaches the intestine to make peristalsis slower. So the psychological factor also should be addressed. Regarding water, when I was telling, it's also kind of a psychological factor. If you start day with drinking a big amount of cool water, it sets the cycle for the intestine for the day to contract and move faster, because cold temperature stimulates, water stimulates, and in the very beginning of the day when you just awoke, you are still hungry, so you have that motilin release, the hormones released, so it's empty, and you stimulate it with water. And that practice together with psychological setup can help to mitigate the problem of lower motility. Now, thank you. Now we have questions probably, or what?
So I've heard in the morning you want to start it with something warm to drink. Is that's not true?
Well, cool temperature, I don't tell cold from refrigerator, but I tell like room temperature or cool temperature will stimulate intestine better. Regarding warm, do you remember what was the reasoning of warm temperature? Because I cannot think about it.
Okay.
Do you remember any reason for it?
Actually, we've heard from friends or whatever else that they'll like something like a hot water with like a lemon or whatever else in it to kind of help stimulate the body, get it moving. But yeah,
lemon. Yeah, I would agree, but I would suggest rather like room temperature, okay. So not warmed up. But that's why I asked. Probably there's something I don't know or don't know about. I can't think about reason for room temperature.
And then one of the questions I had was you were talking about fibers. There's clearly the fibers that you can give out of food, just the natural food that you eat. But then there's these fiber pills and things of that sort. Any guidance around that stuff?
Oh, how big is a peel? You cannot get much from peel, right? Probably from a piece of cauliflower you'll get more from the peel.
Really? Okay.
Well, because the fiber, it's all about volume. How much volume do you have in a peel? It's not much. And another thing which I can suggest probably, it's a wheat bran. It's probably cheap and quite efficient wheat bran, is husks of the grain, yes? And very similar to that is psyllium. Yeah, psyllium is a salt, yes, and it's sold in peel, but I believe you can buy it in bigger quantity, more serious, because peel is kind of for a baby. Like we need big quantities of it.
You can get it as a powder
Yeah, okay, yeah, and you can just like add several spoons to your salad, to your meal, yes.
Okay.
Wheat bran, yes, also.
Or oat bran. I started
Yes,
eating
also,
oat
yeah.
bran instead of oatmeal.
Yeah, it is the same.
It doesn't taste bad at all.
What is it?
Oat bran.
Yeah, yeah, wheat bran, oat bran, yeah.
About flax seed meal.
I did not mention it now, but it is in your handout, yes. Flax seeds do stimulate. Almonds, interestingly, do stimulate. One of the reasons why almonds stimulate, well, actually, I had to tell about it. Magnesium does stimulate, and almonds are rich in magnesium. Besides that, among fruits, figs and prunes are the best in stimulating. Prunes specifically, I know because they contain sorbitol, which is a substance which directly stimulates intestine. So eating prunes, fresh or dry, or prune juice is very good stimulant.
And dried apricots, do those help?
Yes, they do, because mostly because of fiber, which is soluble fiber in apricots mostly. Yes?
My mother used to suffer from constipation every day. And so she'd take prune juice, and one time I gave her a pretty good sized jar of prune juice. She said, "Oh, honey, I'll be running all day."
What did you give her?
Prune juice.
Yeah, prune juice works very well. Figs and prunes work very well. Yeah.
Really fast. And it's because of the chemical that's in there?
Sorbitol.
Sorbitol, yes. Prunes contain sorbitol, which does stimulate. Figs, I'm not sure, but it also, I don't remember the name, but it also contains something which stimulates. Yes?
What did you say about snacking? It's not a good thing?
Snacking is not a good thing for several reasons, and it is even more related to problems of unhealthy epithelium, because every time when the digesting was done in your stomach and intestine, it needs some time for restoration, to restore, to regenerate, to repair everything. And if food comes every couple hours, you don't allow enough time for restoration. And that may lead to leaky gut problems, to malabsorption problem, to different problems, because the epithelium needs time for restore. Yes.
So that hunger pain is a good thing?
Hunger pain is a good thing, yes. I mean, we shouldn't die from hunger, of course. I mean, if you go like weeks without food, yeah. No, but I mean, if it is just about several hours, it is good.
Okay.
And it is a normal thing. That's how people lived for millennia, right? When you are working somewhere in the field, you are hungry, you are hungry. You come home, you eat. Like, there is no refrigerator when you live 100 years ago even. No refrigerator next to you. You need to go somewhere to take food. Like, there is no such thing as immediate satisfaction of hunger.
Now, I've also heard that when your body gets to that hunger place, that what happens is the metabolism changes.
Yes.
To basically.
That's longer term. That's several days,
Okay.
1-2 days needed, but yes.
But it starts slowing down to start preserving, which if you're trying to lose weight or whatever else becomes a bigger issue.
Yes, if you will start eating after that, if you will start eating unhealthy. Because you can start eating healthy.
Yeah.
If you try to lose weight, you just kind of do just a couple of things. You replace all starch in your food, meaning bread, pasta, grains, all those things. Replace it with green vegetables and beans. And that's all. You will gradually lose weight the healthy way. The healthy way. Yeah. So because you reduce amount of calories and you increase amount of fiber, which will be completely different digestion process.
No more pie.
Yeah. No more what?
Pies.
Yeah.
A lot of people are doing that intermittent fasting now, and that's what I was wondering about, because they're doing the 16-8 is what they're doing, 16 hours not eating and then 8 hours of eating. So the key though is when you're eating to eat the better foods, not just
Keto is not really better food, because better food, I would tell paleo diet is better food, but keto is about, sorry, what?
It's not keto. She was talking about intermittent fasting.
Yeah, but then you mentioned keto diet.
She didn't
No.
say that.
No, I apologize.
Yeah, so it's just something that I've been
Okay.
seeing, and all the
Yeah.
women especially are doing it now.
intermittent diet is very near to normal way of eating, because intermittent diet is probably, what is it? It's just like not snacking and eating only a couple times a day, right? And that's just normal way of eating. That's the norm. It's not something new. That's how people ate for millennia. And yeah, the intermittent fasting, it's kind of, but real fasting or hunger is just when you go a whole day or 2 days without food at all. But with intermittent fasting, they have what, like 18 hours without food or 15 hours without food. Yeah. That's normal thing. It's fine. I mean, for adult person, for children probably it's not. Children should eat more frequently than adults. And as we age, the number of meals should reduce. The biggest number of meals is a newborn baby, yes? Yeah, and when we are beyond 40, 50, I would even recommend 1 meal a day or 2 maximum. Yeah. Yes.
As far as hunger pain goes, I've read this and I've experienced it myself. Like if I eat a really big meal, maybe 2 or 3 hours later I'm hungry, but I think I'm hungry, but what really is the stomach is complaining because I gave it too much work.
The feeling should be slightly different, right? The empty stomach feels different from overfilled stomach. And you eat too much, it's different feeling. It's more full. But the hunger, yeah, it is. If you don't eat one day, like you most probably know the feeling of hunger. Yes. I used to stay hungry for 10 days, and I know that the most difficult is day number 2, probably 3, but mostly 2. Yes, that's when you feel hungry. I did do juice fasting, meaning only juices for 42 days. Yeah. But that was for health reasons. Again, I was experimenting a lot with my organism because of my autoimmune diseases, because of rheumatoid arthritis, which I had, and God led me to find a solution.
And the leaky gut could also lead to like ALS, Lou Gehrig's disease.
Leaky gut can lead to what?
ALS or
Lou Gehrig's
Lou
disease.
Gehrig. Is that true?
ALS? What is ALS? I apologize.
Lou Gehrig or
Allergies?
Lou Gehrig
Lou
disease.
Gehrig, it's ALS.
Is it like something wrong with your bones?
No, it's neurological.
Like the brain stays intact, but pretty soon you can't move your hands, you can't talk. Whoa.
It's
really
terrible.
What leads to that?
I don't think they know. It's not diet.
A few years ago, they had the ice bucket challenge trying to raise money for it.
I know, but it's.
Okay, I got it. I got what is it. Yeah, it is, I believe it's also considered autoimmune disease. Yes. Yeah. There are several kinds of autoimmune diseases which does affect spinal cord or brain.
Huh.
Yes. Amyotrophic sclerosis, for example, is most probably also autoimmune. Yes. There was interesting, there was found a connection between gut microbiome and autism.
Really?
Yes. And there were good results on correction of gut microbiome in children with autism. Not studied thoroughly yet, but there are some signs about it. Yeah. Okay. Anything else? Nope.
Okay, one more question.
Yes?
I notice when I eat beans, it takes about a day and a half for the beans to go through. But if I eat cabbage, I can go to the bathroom in like 30 minutes.
That's what we talked about fiber, right? That's why fiber should be in every meal. We should, and in the handout, there is a list actually of different foods, and I can tell you now that all vegetables, all fruits, and all kinds of beans, including lentils and chickpea, are rich with different kinds of fiber. So if you eat enough of that, there should be no problem. If we eat mostly starchy food, if we eat pasta, then yeah, definitely it's a problem. Okay. All right, then let us pray probably, yeah, believe. Всевышний Господь, Lord Almighty, we thank you for this day. We thank you for health which you give to us, and for understanding of health and diseases and how things work and what we should do and what we shouldn't do. We pray that you lead us now when we go to our homes. We pray that you be with each of us during this week. We all commit into your hands, and thank you for everything. Amen.
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 Thank you.
Thank you.